Good evening, everybody. We apologize for the delay, but we are here and believe we are live streaming. We want to welcome everybody, welcome those back who were part of our virtual Crusader classroom orientation last night. If you decided to join us for the on-campus orientation, welcome back, and welcome to all of our families who will be starting out the year on campus. We want to thank you for joining us this evening. A couple of nuts and bolts kinds of things before we move on is that this is a live stream event, but it's not interactive in terms of voice. So rather than your typical Zoom meetings where you can just kind of ask the questions out loud, what we'll be asking of you is if you have a question this evening to chat it in the chat box. And there will be certain stopping points throughout the evening where we will be able to respond to those questions. We're going to go over a lot of information this evening, and we want to be able to answer as many questions as we can. For those questions we don't get to, or for those questions that we can't answer off the top of our head, we will get those answers to you shortly. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and move ahead in our slide here and begin with prayer. So please join me. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. God of wisdom and might, we praise you for the wonder of our being, for mind, body, and spirit. Be with our children as they begin a new school year. Bless them, their families, and our staff. Give us all strength and grace, wisdom and knowledge, and peace in our hearts. We ask this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. So joining me this evening as part of our panel is Mr. Tony Cruz, who obviously most of you know is our tech coordinator, Miss Randy Siri, our assistant principal, and then of course our nurse, Candace Hall, who we have with us this evening. Is a lot of what we'll be talking about is the health and the safety of your children. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get started with the presentation. And again, if you do have questions, don't hesitate to chat them to us. And again, we will stop throughout the presentation to answer those questions the best we can. So we wanted to start with the first day of school. And a reminder that the first day of school is a half day only. And so we will not have lunch service on this day. We're not having enrichment classes on this day. And we would love for you all to send us a picture of your students on their first day of school. So I know that many of us like to take pictures of our kiddos as they stand in the front of their houses or in their living rooms with their school uniforms on and ready to start the next year. So we would love for you to send those pictures to us. One of the ways that we will be mitigating risk this year is through a cohort system. And basically the cohorts are your children's classrooms. So each cohort, or each homeroom classroom, I should say, will stick together throughout the day. And they will be socially distanced from the other cohorts. Everything that we're doing, all of the measures we're taking are to mitigate risk. Obviously, we can't eliminate the risk of transmission of COVID on our campus, but we can do everything possible to mitigate as much risk as we can. We're going to be eliminating as many transitions as possible, keeping the students in these cohorts. And this is done for two reasons, obviously, like I said, for safety purposes, but it's also easier for us to track if we do have someone on campus who either gets sick or becomes, or we find is COVID positive. And so these cohorts will stick together as much as possible throughout each day. How will we work lunch and recess? Well, the students in the pre-K and kindergarten will actually move out of their classrooms and eat in the parish hall where we've always eaten lunch in the past. They will be spaced apart at the lunch tables, while the older students in grades 1st through 8 will be having lunch in their classrooms. We still have hot lunch available. Those lunches will be brought to the classrooms for these students. Students will go to recess each day, weather permitting, and we have brought back some of our different zones for recess, including part of the parking area in the back that we had fenced off a couple of years ago. We've brought that back just so that we can have different areas or different zones for the children to participate in recess. Teachers have been given a lot of resources on different kinds of games, relay races, all sorts of fun things that the kids can do that keep them spread apart as much as possible, because this is one of the times where they'll be able to take a mask break throughout the day when they're outside. And we know that the risk of transmission is far less when they're outside. And so, like I said, it is one more opportunity throughout the day for them to get those masks off and get some exercise. So we are, like I said, worked hard to make sure that we have plenty of space where each cohort can go out and have some fun each day. A little bit about the enrichment program. The students, the only class that the students will be traveling to is PE. So they'll be in the gymnasium or outside behind the gymnasium on our track and field. Our fine arts program, as well as library, will be in the classroom. Our Spanish classes in 2nd through 5th grade will be live streamed into their classrooms, as well as the virtual Crusader classroom kiddos. Mrs. Crover will be traveling to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade classrooms for Spanish in the middle school. And so if you have any questions for your enrichment teachers, they may be reached through the following email or through their Google Hangout. A little bit about our mask policy, and all of this information, and probably even in more detail, can be found on our website. So if you haven't had a chance to check out our reopening plan on our website, I really strongly suggest and urge you to do that. But all students and adults must be wearing their masks upon entering and exiting the school building. So as they come, as they arrive at school and as they leave at school, they will all be masked. We had a wonderful opportunity to see some of our youngest learners at Meet the Teacher a couple of days ago, and we were kind of a little bit nervous about how these kiddos would come, but they came. Our youngest 3-year-olds came in with their masks on, happy as clams, and it was just a delight to see them all go meet their teachers and come back to their families with a Polaroid picture in hand, a bag full of Starbucks. I think the Starbucks was for us, the teacher. Starbursts and huge smiles on their faces. So we know that these kids are going to thrive in this environment, even when they do have to have their masks on. I've gotten a lot of feedback from our sister Catholic schools who've already started, a lot of which require masks as early as 3 years old. They said all of their students are doing a wonderful job with the masks. So, we're really confident that the masks won't be an issue. I've said this in previous correspondence with families, is that their attitude towards masks are going to be your attitude towards masks. And we don't want the first time a child puts on a mask to be the first day of school. I heard a great idea from one of our parents who said one way they're getting their child to really take on the whole mask thing is that when their child's doing some of their favorite things to do, like play video games, they have her wear a mask. So she's associating fun things with wearing the mask. And I thought that was a pretty cool psychological little trick to do in terms of getting your kids to wear and start to feel comfortable with their masks. So We know that our students in 1st through 8th grade will wear their masks while in the classroom. Obviously, mask breaks will be provided throughout the day, including lunch, when they will be eating lunch in their classrooms. But we do have the ability to space them 6 feet apart while eating their lunches. We know that via the protocols that we're following from the Archdiocese is that we know that we have 6 feet of social distancing without masks and 3 feet with masks. But we're shooting for 6 feet wherever we can, regardless of the mask situation. And our classrooms are all set up, and we're confident and happy with the spacing that we're able to get in each of the classroom, despite the number of students. Speaking of this question came up yesterday. We had about 25% of our student population choose our virtual Crusader classroom, while 75% of our families picked on-campus learning. So our social distancing protocols, which I've talked about a little bit already, 3 to 6 feet apart. We have some pretty cool floor stickers that we have. We're going to make sure that the kids know which direction to be walking in our hallways. These will be placed 6 feet apart, as well as some reminder stickers. You know, when Christ the Redeemer does something, they do it right with their cross on it. So these will be spaced out throughout our hallways, as well as signage and reminders for kids in terms of everything from social distancing to the proper washing of hands. But we ask that you practice these things with your children at home, especially the hand washing. We have 3 additional portable hand washing stations that we're going to station in the areas for our youngest kids through 3rd grade. Unfortunately, they won't be here until the middle of September, but it is just one more way that we are ensuring that the kids are able to social distance and have plenty of opportunity to wash their hands. We're going to have plenty of hand sanitizer, disinfectant that we'll talk about in a little while, but nothing beats good hand washing. So the teachers will work with the students and monitor them closely, and obviously give them reminders. We're limiting the number of students in our restrooms, and have a system in place with tags that will allow for kids to see how many students are in the bathroom. So there'll be no more than 2 to 3 children in a bathroom based on its size. So much of what we've been working on internally and with the Archdiocese, of course, the CDC, state and local officials, Harris County, has to do with the health protocols. And if you watch the nightly news, you know that every night it seems like something has changed. But what we are doing is we're focusing on the guidance from the Archdiocese as well as Harris County to ensure that we put in place protocols that will, like I said, mitigate as much risk as possible when it comes to this pandemic. So I'm going to turn things over to Nurse Hall for a little while. But before I do that, this is one of those stopping points where perhaps we can answer some questions. I don't know if any have popped up yet. Maybe Ms. Siri, you can field some of those questions for us before we move on to Nurse Hall.
Hi, everybody. I'm happy to kind of see y'all virtually. It's good to kind of be in community again. So I'm going to take just a few of these questions. I've been watching them come in. I know one question that came up and has come up several times before is why the younger students aren't wearing masks. And we certainly welcome and encourage them to wear their masks. But what we've found from different people that we've spoken to is that it oftentimes increases the amount of times they're touching their faces, and also really interferes with some of their language development and reading skills. But of course, if your child is one that is comfortable and wears a mask very easily, we will keep encouraging them to do that. So if that's something that you would like the teachers to encourage, you're welcome to reach out to your teachers and of course work with your child in the younger grades to encourage that mask wearing. Another question is how often the students will be wearing, or how often will students be getting mask breaks, I'm sorry. And that's going to be up to the teacher outside of the times that they go to recess, lunch, and PE. So teachers will be working with the classes on that because every class will have different needs. So we're going to kind of differentiate that, much like we differentiate our instruction and meet the kids where they are.
We also have talked to the teachers about, being realistic with this. And if you have a child who seems to be having a tough time with it, then we're going to have, we have protocols in place where they can step out into the hallway, given that there aren't any groups walking by and there shouldn't, and take a breather from the mask. So there will be times where individuals can step out if they need to, but also like Ms. Siri said, the classes will be going out for recess. They will be going to PE multiple times a week. And they will, and we also are encouraging as much outdoor class as possible, that we're kind of working on with Mr. Cruz in terms of coordinating how our virtual learners will learn during those times. But as the temperatures start to cool down a little bit, there'll be more and more learning going on outside. So again, my son is a 7th grader. At my former school, John Paul II, and I've been keeping in close contact with him. I've talked to the principal over there, and the kiddos have been managing the masks throughout the day very well. So I think it, and even as we go out and we see more and more people wearing masks, it's becoming a little bit more normal, a little more part of daily life. With anything, we're open to hear concerns that you may have individually with your child when they're coming home. Obviously, there's not any major changes that we can make to our protocols that are in place, but we will stay on top of the latest science, and we will stay on top of the latest developments in terms of best practices when it comes to mitigating risk of transmission. And make changes based on when the Archdiocese as well as Harris County allows us to do so.
A couple more questions regarding masks while we're talking about them. Will spare masks be available? Yes. Great news is that we have been able to get plenty of extra masks for kiddos who drop them, or they get dirty, or they're just struggling, or we forget. Nurse Hall's got lots and lots of extras, so we will take care of that. Somebody else mentioned that they were going to send an extra mask. I encourage that. Please make sure we have our names on everything. We know that kiddos lose even their socks and shoes sometimes. So please make sure their name is on everything, or some initials, just like you would their jackets and t-shirts and things like that. But yes, extra masks in the backpack are a great idea. And we will have extra on campus if their mask becomes contaminated, or even if they lose it, which we know is probably going to happen. So we can take care of that. The teachers will also be wearing masks. Some of them might wear face shields in addition to their masks. But the research has shown, and what has been recommended for us, is that we are wearing, even if we're wearing a face shield, we are still wearing our mask underneath it. So we won't be wearing a face shield instead of, or in lieu of a mask.
One of the things about masks is that if you're concerned about your child and, just in terms of keeping a mask on and being comfortable with it, one of the most effective masks out there are these simple surgical masks, I guess is what they call them. But, you can buy them at everywhere from Target to, a gas station. These are the extras that we have on campus. And I love all of my really awesome masks. I've got my Hawaiian mask. Love this mask. I just got this from a friend. This is, I don't know if you can read it, but this is, it's probably backwards, world's okayest principle. I have something to talk to my friend about when she sent me that. And those are great, and I'll wear them sometimes, but when I have to keep a mask on for quite a while, I find that these disposable masks are the most breathable, and from the research out there, some of the most effective. So these are the extra masks that we have here on campus. that we can give to kids and that teachers will have access to as well. Another thing about masks is if you want, we got all of our teachers' little change purses. They say Crusader Strong on them, and that's just a place to keep an extra mask. So just another idea. This could be, you could get a little change purse or something and clip it onto your child's backpack, and there they have another extra mask in a place. So just some ideas on masks. Go ahead, Miss Siri.
I think that's good for now.
Great. Let's keep on keeping on. We'll turn it over to Nurse Hall and some of our health protocols, which I will forewarn you are complicated, but at the same time, everything that we talk about is on our website as well. So you can go back and review the things that Nurse Hall says. She's not going to get into the, deep into the weeds on this stuff, but get a general overview. Again, we can answer questions as they come up. It's all you, Nurse Hall.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you, your faces at least. I've missed seeing all your kids and I hope they're doing well. Just have a little bit of oh, there it goes. I was going to say next. Just had a little presentation to talk to you about, like Dan said, not going to go too deep in the woods or in the weeds, but just kind of touch on the, basics of it. So a couple of really important things that I want you to know, first of all, is that it's not just me. This is a huge team effort. I have a great administration team that's helping me. And also the school works very closely with the Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston, but also just our local health department. Like Dan said, the CDC puts things out. It changes, it seems, pretty often. So they really help us to stay on top of that. When it comes to all my COVID assessments, contact tracing, which we'll talk about later, any big decisions, it's not just me. I have a big team of people helping me. My biggest thing I want to say is I love your kids like my own, but please, please, I do not want to see their faces if they are sick. I love them, but please, if your kids are sick, this year more than ever, please keep them home. I know it's been a long 6-month summer or 6-month spring break, and I know you have to get back to work, and I'm here to support you. We're all here to support you. But in the long run, it'll be so much better if we keep those sick kids at home, keep them healthy. The next point I want to talk about is picking up your sick kids. If I call that your kid is sick, like I said, I love them, but I don't necessarily want to sit with them for 4 hours if they're hacking and they're feverish, and they don't want to either. So like I said earlier about not being in this on my own, you're part of my team as well. I need help from you also. So if your kiddo is sick and needs to go home, please make plans to pick them up as quickly as you can. If you know now that you want to add grandma and grandpa to the emergency pickup list because they're maybe closer, put them on the emergency list through your, parents portal. And the last part I want to say about, communicating with me is please let the school know if any family members have COVID. The previous slide, Dan, if you'll just scoot back one more slide, the opposite direction. That is my personal email and my office number. And then this COVID email is a team of us up at school. If you email that, whether it's your child has COVID, anything COVID related, you would send it there. If you just have a question, just email me. Can you go to the next slide, please? So that's my last part on that is please let's work on this together, okay? So keep your sick kids at home. If they're sick, come and get them, and then just let me know, keep me, in the loop as far as anything COVID related. A big question I've been getting emailed to me a lot is when to keep my child at home. I know this is a little tricky, but we're going to get through it as a team. If they're experiencing any symptoms of COVID, please keep them home. I know you can read online, you can go, find them yourself, but I'm just going to go over some of the symptoms real quick. Some of them are very obvious. I'm sure you've all heard the whole loss of taste or, loss of smell, difficulty breathing, shortness of breath. Those are all the real obvious ones. The tricky ones are when we get to cough, congestion, when we're just allergies. Those are the ones that get kind of tricky. If you know that your child is obviously not feeling well and then just coughing, keep them at home. If it's a real bad hacking cough, please just keep them. You can email or call me and say, hey, Candace, Caroline's been coughing. I wasn't sure whether I should send her to school, and we can kind of talk it out. Please don't drop your kid off, and they're just coughing, and then I'm calling you in 20 minutes anyway. On the flip side of that, this is also a big thing I want to say. Please, please, please do not medicate your child and send them to school. Please, I can't stress that enough for multiple reasons. First, they're exposing other people. If little John has a fever and you just give him Tylenol and say, don't say anything, but you're going to school, I have to go to work. Now they're exposing other kids. They really don't feel well. And I promise you that medicine is going to wear off by 11 o'clock or noon, and they're going to be in my office miserable. And also parents, they rat y'all out. They come in my office and say, Mommy gave me Advil. She said not to tell you. Well, that's going to get you a trip home and possibly, a couple of days of staying at home. So please don't medicate them just to get them out of the house. If they've been exposed to COVID,
Can I add, Candace, one real quick thing to that?
Sure.
I just wanted to say that short-term personal solutions could lead to long-term consequences for all of us. And I want to just kind of expand on that by saying, if we have, if we say, your child has to stay home, or please don't bring them to school, or you send them to school and they pass this on to others, what could eventually be saving you, a day or two from having to stay home with the child could turn into the school having to shut down and all of us having to go back to distance learning. We are in this together. We are Christ the Redeemer Catholic School community, a family. And so we have to stress and urge that what could save you a day might end up costing you weeks of an entire class having to go home, or God forbid, the entire school having to go back to virtual learning. If your child is sick, keep them at home. It's never been more important than this year. Okay, Mr. Courtney's stepping off his soapbox and turning it back to Candace.
Thank you. So I was just saying that if they're having those symptoms, please don't send them to school. You're going to get your card tag, and on the back of it is going to be the list of symptoms. So you have time in the morning. I know when you're, in car line, just stopped, parked, about to drop your kiddo off, read those symptoms real quick. If they have any of those, really think about it. I mean, if you don't want to think about your own child, think about maybe their classmate. Let's say, well, Caroline, this cough, I'm not sure how bad it is. Well, think maybe if Caroline's friend had that same cough, would you be okay with her just being kind of, closer up to her? Let's just use common sense. And I know, like I said, I know y'all are going to be great at that, but we're a team, and I really, really love your kids, but please don't send them sick, please. And don't medicate them and send them. I'll talk about like what Dan said later, but these little things are what help us. These measures that we take are going to help us in the end. If we do get COVID in the school, of this whole contact tracing, to go back and be able to say, so-and-so was sick, but they stayed out. These little things all kind of snowball together. So the next thing is if they've been exposed to COVID. If you yourself have had COVID, you're getting tested for COVID, you think you have COVID, don't send your kiddo to school just yet. Send me an email with the teacher and just say, look, I'm not feeling well. I'm not going to send Billy to school. And I'll let you know when I get my results back, or I'll take him to the doctor and we'll just make sure he's got the clear. If you are being tested yourself and you could possibly have it, therefore your kid could have it, let's just hold off on that just for a little bit. And if you're awaiting COVID test results, especially for your child, one of my friends is a school nurse at a different school, and she had a parent who sent their kid to school and was very sick. And when she called the parent said, well, we're waiting on his COVID results, but I just figured I didn't want him to miss class. That's not a good excuse to send your kids. So please, if you're just unsure about anything COVID related, if your kids seem sick at all, don't send them to school. Just give me a call. That's just the best thing to do. Can we go to just the next slide, please? Because this is kind of leading into this. This is probably the biggest question ever. Like Dan said, things have been changing, it seems, overnight, but through the health department, through the CDC, through the Archdiocese, we have a somewhat good, kind of schedule of what we're going to do in these scenarios. Like I said, it's not just me. It goes through the Archdiocese. It also goes through, the health department when they're needed. So it's a very big team effort. These are just different COVID scenarios that could be on campus. This diagram that Dan in a few seconds is going to put up is also on our website. It's within our returning plan, the whole picture of it. And so I'll just kind of go through them. The first one is just lab confirmed COVID-19 individual. If we are able to say, okay, little Billy has COVID, he was in school on Tuesday, what will happen to that child? Obviously, they're home. Is I will be calling the Archdiocese, and through the Archdiocese and with the help of the health department also, is they ask, 20, 30 questions all about that child. Where was that child? What class? What were they doing all day? That kind of thing. It's not that one, it's the other one, Dan. It's okay, I'm just going to keep going, but it's the different picture. It's the one with all it's called the on-campus requirements. So if there was COVID confirmed, what we're going to do is basically called contact tracing, where we're going to see where that child was, who they came in contact with. And what I was saying earlier about all these little things, there it is. This is on our website. It was in the return plan. And it's just different scenarios for COVID. This is basically for if this is your child, like when to go back, if your child had COVID, that it's telling you all three criteria must be met. It's very lengthy. If you read into it, it's not too hard to understand, but each one just kind of has their own criteria. If there is, confirmed COVID, you have to wait 3 days until you're, no fever, 72 hours. You have an improvement in your symptoms, and you have at least 10 days passed since your symptoms first appeared. That is no ifs, ands, or buts. If you had COVID, you have to do those, no matter what. If you have COVID symptoms and you have not been evaluated by a doctor, you have not been tested, you need to wait 3 days for the fever. If you have fever, not all kids will have fever. We know that some kids may be asymptomatic. Not all of them are going to have fever, but if you do, you have to wait that 72 hours. Some schools, I realize, are doing 24 hours, and I just kind of wanted to explain that because we get a lot of those questions. When the CDC first brought out their return to school guidelines, they said 72 hours. And they realized that's kind of a longer time, and maybe kids won't be in school if they use that. So to accommodate some of the to accommodate the bigger schools, they went back down to the 24 hours. Well, the Archdiocese decided we can still do the 72 hours because that's going to help us for if we have to quarantine. Those kids have been out longer. So the rule now, we used to always have 24 hours. If you remember, like last year, if you had strep, I would say, okay, you can come back when your doctor says to come back, and 24 hours after you have fever. It was always 24 hours. So it's now 72. And I know that might be frustrating. I know, like I said earlier, you have to work, but it's these little things that are going to help us have healthier kids. So if you have the symptoms, you're not getting tested, we're going to assume that you might have it. You have to, wait those 3 days after your fever's passed. You have to have improvements in your symptoms. If I send you home with a hacking cough, you can't come back with a hacking cough. And then you have to wait at least 10 days after your symptoms have appeared. But this is the part that you really need to look at. If you have the symptoms that can be COVID related, and you want your child to return to school before those 10 days, you have to either go to the doctor and get them to sign a note saying that your child is healthy enough to go back. Maybe it's allergies, maybe it's just sinuses, maybe it is strep and you have to wait 3 days, but maybe it's something besides COVID, and you may return with that letter before the 10 days. Or if you're not going to do that, then you have to receive those 2 separate confirmations of getting tested that you are negative. So that's the Archdiocese rule. My suggestion is if you have all these symptoms that could be COVID and you don't want to have to wait those 10 days, you will have to go to the doctor and say, here's a letter, Caroline's symptoms, right in line with a sinus infection, okay to return to school. You know, if symptoms worsen, I'll see you again, that kind of thing. And then you can come back to school. The last one is what's called close contact with someone who's been confirmed. So this would be if you've had close contact with someone who's had COVID, let's say mom, you have it, your child should stay home in quarantine too, because they could have gotten it also. So what the Archdiocese was putting out is that those children should stay home as well. There's a list down below. It's kind of what the CDC was talking about, close contact, whether it's been maybe you were so close without a mask on that you've been coughing near them, neither of you had a mask on, that kind of thing. Or, oh, sorry, I couldn't see it, it's blue. Oh, or if a child has COVID and then is playing outside without their masks on and then possibly coughs or sneezes, and then you find out about that, you need to probably quarantine as well. I know this is very overwhelming. It really is. I can't tell you how many times it's changed in the past couple of months. All I can do is say this is what the Archdiocese is putting out right now. If there are any changes, obviously we would let y'all know as soon as possible. I know it is very confusing. I know there's a lot of questions. Well, what if my child's classroom gets it? That's why we're wearing the masks. That's why we're distancing. That's why we're doing all these safety protocols, because that's going to help us where maybe not the entire class has to quarantine. Maybe they will go virtual for a day or two while we contact trace, while we get in there and clean and disinfect. But it's a case-by-case basis. It's not always the exact same thing. It's not cookie cutter. It's a lot easier, let's say on 7th graders, for me to say, who did you sit by? Who did you talk to? Where were you? You know, almost like a detective. What were you doing? If I get a 3 or 4-year-old, I obviously can't ask that question. I mean, it's like you put everything in your mouth today. You probably were picking your nose. You probably were touching this and that. So it's not just one answer. I know that's hard. I know it's frustrating and confusing, but we will take it as it comes. When it does come, I'm going to be calling the Archdiocese meeting and the health department, and we're going to go from there. That's all I have for right now. I know that's a lot of information. My email was up there. Please email me any questions, concerns you have. Give me a call. I'm happy to talk to you about it. I wanted to talk about non-COVID real quick. If your child does have, I put it in the Chronicle a few times, if your child needs medication at school, if your child has asthma, if your child has epilepsy, hemophilia, any like serious medical issue, or they need medication, I need forms from you. I haven't received many, so please, they're on our website, or just email me, let me know about your kiddo. I'll tell you exactly what you need. If your child has any medical history you want to talk about before school starts, now's the time to do it. I will be at school tomorrow for any of you who've been emailing, asking, can I drop off my kid's EpiPen? Can I bring her asthma inhaler? The first day of school is so busy. You can bring it the first day of school. I can meet you, in the front little lobby area. But I will be at school tomorrow. I just wanted to make that clear. If anyone does want to drop it off or talk about their kids, medical history, that kind of thing, I will be there tomorrow. So I just wanted to let y'all know. But that is all I have for now, unless anything comes up.
I think this is a good spot to stop and take a couple of questions, Nurse Hall, since some of them are related specifically to being sick. So someone asked, is abdominal pain, diarrhea, nausea still considered COVID symptoms?
From what I've seen, the last I saw it was, but also if you're having vomiting, did you say vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain?
Yes, ma'am.
I wouldn't come to school with that anyway. So maybe I should back up and say that. Maybe I said so much on COVID. It is also in our handbook, but some of the symptoms to stay out with anyway are any fever, 100 or above, any major stomach issues like, diarrhea, diarrhea, if you have diarrhea, you have to be out for 24 hours since your last really loose diarrhea spell, or whatever you want to call it. That kind of thing, especially the younger ones, when it's hard for them to kind of verbalize how their stomach's feeling. If they're running to the bathroom a lot and they have a lot of diarrhea, I'm going to call you and ask you, to come get them, watch them, hydrate them, all that good stuff. And then they can come back 24 hours after the last one. If your kiddo is having bad abdominal pain and vomiting and diarrhea, really shouldn't be at school anyway. That's probably one of those things where I'd probably recommend you go to the doctor and maybe get that note saying, I know they can't say a whole lot on these notes for HIPAA or their, privacy reasons, but just that you can be in school, or that, I know a lot of doctors are being I'm so worried about, like, oh, I hope these doctors don't hate me, but I've talked to so many of them and they're just so understanding and patient. And this is kind of a crazy year for all of us. So we're all kind of working together, but they understand. But if you're having your kids having abdominal pain and vomiting or diarrhea, I would definitely just take them in anyway. Even if you don't think it's COVID related, something else is going on, and let's just talk about it from there. But yes, I would keep a child out with those symptoms.
Okay. Thank you, Nurse Hall. And Mr. Courtney, several people have asked this question. If they are sick for a certain amount, if they're homesick for a certain amount of time, will they have access to the virtual classroom for that time frame? So if you want to go ahead and take that question.
Yeah, and that's exactly what one of the things that's on our website with all of this different kinds of things going on. One of the nice things about having running a virtual classroom alongside of the actual classroom is that can be pretty seamless. And so if they do have to stay home for the 3 days or the 10 days or the 2 weeks or beyond, they will, given the fact that they're feeling well enough, be able to participate in the class in the same way the virtual Crusader classroom kiddos are.
Thank you, Mr. Courtney. Another parent has asked if we can make sure that none of the students are contacted by contact tracers without a parent present or an adult present. And when Nurse Hall mentioned contact tracing, she definitely was referring to us, the adults, the administrative team on campus. She was not referring to any outside contact tracing being done in the school. We are a closed campus this school year, so we would not have any visitors. We would never allow any visitors to have any contact with your children.
No.
Without us present.
And we are also, just with regard to Harris County and those kinds of things, they wouldn't contact or come. They would, if they had to talk about your child, they would be contacting you, not the school.
Is there a preferred trusted lab for COVID testing?
That's a good question. We do have some resources. I don't have them, but we will throw those up on our website. I know that there are a couple of, or one in particular that's a drive-through, and you can get results pretty quickly. I went to a clinic where I was able to get results within 15 minutes a couple of months ago when I was having a cough. So there are places out there. Testing is, improving, and the turnaround time is improving. So it's a good question, and we will get those thrown up on the website.
All right, Mr. Courtney, we're starting to dive into car line questions. So I think we're going to move along here. Hot topic.
I'm on mute. We are not to car line yet. We purposely put that at the end because we know that some people have lots of questions and other people come and just kind of follow the car in front of them. So with that said, we will get to car line very shortly. But a couple of other things that I wanted to mention just in terms of safety protocols within the campus. We have our nurses clinic that is going to be strictly for bumps and bruises and COVID-like symptoms. And then we have turned one of our classrooms into a a second clinic, which is kind of our isolation room. All schools are encouraged to have an isolation room, and that's where a child will go if they have any kind of symptoms that are flu-like or COVID-related. That's another reason that we need families to come and get their kiddos picked up as quickly as possible. So with regard to our cleaning protocols, our teachers will be disinfecting surface and high touch areas 3 times per day, beginning, middle, and end of the day. Pre-K, kinder, and first grade will sanitize manipulatives and toys daily with an FDA approved food grade sanitizer, because we know that 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, sometimes even 5 and 6-year-olds can put things into their mouths. And so any kind of toys or manipulatives will get sanitized with food grade sanitizer. The products that we use are listed there. You can go to our website and see a complete listing of all of the cleaning products, sanitizers, and disinfectants that we are using. We have added, since it's not even up to date on our website yet, but an antimicrobial treatment. And you've probably heard of this Find Mist spray. They use a kind of electric sprayers that spread Find Mist throughout our classrooms and our offices. They have a technology that puts a coating on high touch surfaces, including high touch points and areas of cross contamination. They're disinfected. And all of these products are water-based, EPA registered, and have undergone rigorous safety testing. So like I said, there are links to these cleaning products on our website. I haven't gotten the antimicrobial treatment up there yet, but I will do just that by tomorrow. So we've also, I didn't include this on here, but I found out today from Deacon Terry that we have some covers, I guess they call them sleeves or skins, that go on our door handles that are also antimicrobial as well. So we're certainly going to have a clean campus, and we're going to keep it clean, and hopefully, as free from these little buggers as possible. We have a closed campus up until further notice, and we're going to be real staunch on this. And this even includes things like forgotten lunches. We ask that you don't bring up anything this year, including forgotten lunches. If a child forgets his lunch, they will be provided one from the school cafeteria. We're not having birthday treats brought up to school, no food or anything like that. Please remember to talk to your kiddos about not sharing food at lunchtime. It'll be kind of tough because the teachers will be watching them pretty closely, but we need to keep all of our things. We just can't share, which is a tough thing to have to tell young kiddos about. No, we don't want to share that, but we'll get back to sharing soon enough. In order to mitigate as much risk as possible and keep the amount of people coming into our school as limited as possible, this includes our subs. We're going to be trying to work with our as few as substitute teachers as possible, so that we can keep as few people keep as many people off campus as we can. Communication for everyone is similar to what it's been in the past. You can message teachers through your Seesaw, Google Meets, or emails. We're going to be sending out, teachers will be sending out their weekly flock notes every Friday. We ask that you allow a full day for them to get back with you. And their grades will continue to be updated through the system that you already know, which is RenWeb. So nothing like that has changed. All the virtual Crusader classroom children are held to the same accountable standards as the kids on campus are. We want to, as I told those families yesterday, we want to ensure that they have as much of the same type of learning experience that the kids do here on campus. Just a few miscellaneous items. Our daycare dismissal buses We need you, this is one of the things that we neglected on our questionnaire. And if you are using a daycare dismissal bus, we need you to email Miss Siri or myself as soon as possible, because we have to make sure that we organize the dismissal of those buses as well as our car line procedures, which we're going to get into in just a short minute here. Another thing, safety-wise, all of our water fountains will not be used. We have bought 9 water coolers, kind of the office water cooler kind of thing. And so all of your children must come to school with their own water bottle that has a closable top on it. And please have them come to school with them filled. But we will have 9 refilling stations throughout the hallways. All right. Questions
Mr. Court,
that are
yeah,
not
that's what I-
related to car line.
Okay, that's what I was going to suggest before we get into the car line. So just a couple more questions have popped up. Nurse Hall, you might be able to answer this one, or Mr. Courtney. Which COVID test is required, the express test or the 2-day test?
The type of test, the express versus there are different types of tests that are coming around. And I meant to get this question answered before we did this. But as of right now, they're only accepting the most common type of test, which the turnaround time is a little bit longer, and I forget what that's called. And they're not accepting the other test. And I will get that information out to everybody by tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Courtney. We have a couple questions about lunch, and I'm not sure if we know the answer, but maybe Mr. Courtney does. The latest that we can submit the lunch menu selections, and then will hot lunches be cold stack lunches, or will we still have some heated options? I know we are trying to do as much grab and go as possible.
Mr. Courtney, you are on mute.
Can you hear me now? All right, sorry about that. Regarding lunches, in the Chronicle today, there should be a menu as well as when you need to turn in your selections. So that's information is all in the Chronicle. And it is hot lunch still, but it will be items that can be easily brought up to the classroom. Next question, Randy.
I'm looking. I think other than that, all we have is, are lunch boxes allowed, or do they have to be disposable? Lunch boxes are allowed. We are asking that as many items as possible can be disposable. So I know everyone wants to be eco-friendly, but we are trying to throw out as much as we can and not have things going back and forth. But yes, lunch boxes are allowed. Same as the water bottles. Okay, I think we're ready to talk about car line.
Great. Here we go. So I'm going to preface this by saying we didn't complicate things because we simply like to complicate things. We feel like it's not going to be that complicated, but it will be. It's the reason that we have made changes to car line is, again, to mitigate risk. And we want to, one of the times that we know is the most active and that there's the most crossover and the closest together kids are, and that we have to be in the hallways telling kids to slow down and not run and tell this kid they're in the wrong place, or is during, particularly at the end of the day, but also in the morning as well. So we have come up with a plan that not only we feel will allow us to get more kids in quicker in the morning because we'll have two different areas. It also allows for the students to come in and not one grade level crosses paths with another grade level. And so that took a lot of work on our part. It took a lot of putting our brains together. It took a lot of writing things down on paper, crumpling it up, throwing it over, and starting over again. And we come up with what we feel and what looks like on paper or in the digital world like a really good plan. But we also know that it might not work out like we had planned. So we ask for your patience, especially on the first few days. And we also preface this by saying it could very well change. I don't think we'll see any major changes in terms of arrival and dismissal, but we may have to tweak a few things. So with that said, here we go, arrivals. For the sake of clarity during all of this, we have two different, let's call them cohorts. We have pre-K through first. We'll call that we'll call that cohort A. So the pre-kindergartners, the kindergartners, and the first graders, we'll call them cohort A. Cohort B is everyone else, 2nd through 8th grade. So in the morning, cohort A, or pre-K through first, will enter through the back doors of the parish hall. And those are the doors that lead into the area that is our kitchen. And so we'll show you a map of how you will get there. 2nd and 8th grade will enter through the circle drive. There will be no more dropping the older students, I think it was 2nd through 8th grade students, off at the driveway, or I'm sorry, at the sidewalk along the side of the school. Everyone in 2nd through 8th will be dropped off in the circle drive. What we want to let you know is that we are going to put 8 cars through the circle drive at a time, but there will only be 4 people letting children out and taking their temperatures. Okay, so they're going to start with the lead car, and then they're going to come back to the second car. And so please, if you are that second car, if you see the car in front of you and the adult is getting the children or the child out of the car, just wait. Don't have your kids get out of the vehicle until an adult comes to you. Okay. Students will get really quick temperature checks as they arrive. The adult will simply ask you, is everybody in the car symptom-free? And you will give the thumbs up. If you don't give the thumbs up, we have a wait zone where you can go. Or if your child's temperature is checks out to be 100 degrees or above, we will ask you to go to the wait zone where either nurse hall or a school administrator will come and do an additional temperature check and talk through next steps with you. Please ensure that everyone in the car is wearing a mask upon arrival. Please make sure that everyone in your car can get out the passenger side. Again, please make sure that everybody in your car can get out the passenger side. This is going to speed things up and ensure that we are able to take everybody's temperature in a timely manner. Again, all students must wear masks as they enter the building. So here's our map.
Mr.
So as you can
Courtney,
see, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. There's just a little bit of chatter, so I do think it's important for us to take a second to mention this is different than what we initially posted, and the handbook was updated once again last night. So for those of you who are my big go-getters and you were reading that handbook a couple weeks ago, we did say it was subject to change. And one of the things that we heard from feedback from families and feedback from our staff was that having the 3 different arrival points was real difficult, and we were going to be crossing traffic with Genesis. So we did eliminate one of the drop-off points and try to make this a little bit simpler. Unfortunately, we're not able to go completely back to normal, but having two, I think, will help significantly.
Yes, and another thing we did is that we had in the original plan, for instance, kindergarten was dropping off in one place and picking up in another place, as was middle school. And it seemed like it would be, for me as a parent, it would be a bit frustrating to have to keep in mind all of these things. So now pre-K, kinder and first, all drop off and pick up from the same location as do second through eighth. So I'm going to put on my trusty little pointer here. And for our arrivals, for pre-K, kindergarten, and first, you will be going down the south end behind the parish offices. This is where you would have gone if you were a walker last year at the end of the day. But you're going to drive here, and then you're going to come around here, and along this wall right here, along the back side of the parish hall and the school, we are going to have our drop-off zones. And this is where pre-K, kinder, and first grade will drop off, get their temperatures checked, and then right along this area right here in the parking lot area, we will have the wait zone in the event that we have to take a temperature for the second time or have the nurse come out and speak with you. So, and then you'll just exit out along this pathway and out this driveway. The blue, if you can look, is for dropping off older siblings. And so this is another area that we improved on since the original plan. So if you have a child in cohort A and then a child in cohort B, instead of having to go back out here and come around this way, we've simplified it, and you are going to actually go through the back drive. That's going to be secure because there are going to be no children coming or going from the Redeemer Activity Center at that time. And you're going to come around and you're going to stop here like we used to do in second through eighth grade, except you're not going to get out here. You're going to wait for Miss Morganti to let 8 cars go through, and you will come around and drop off your older kids in the circle drive. So that is what arrivals look for pre-K, kinder, and first. And then if you have an older child, how easy it is to drop them off by going behind the school. Arrivals for second and eighth grade, second through eighth grade is pretty similar to what it was. It's the same for what it was for the our youngest kiddos through first grade last year, but you're going to come along here, and then you're going to make a left turn. Miss Morganti's going to allow you 8 cars to come in here and park, okay? You have a choice. You can drop off your older sibling first or your younger sibling first. It's up to you. We encourage you to drop off your younger sibling first just because it's easier to go around back here. But if for whatever reason it's easier for you to drop off your older sibling first, then you can come around and drop off your cohort A student down and back here like we talked about originally. So before we go on to dismissals, Ms. Siri, what kind of questions do we have about arrivals?
We mentioned the handbook. There's a question here about aftercare, which we can get to afterwards. Somebody asked about if you've got several students in different grade levels, do we have to go through twice? Mr. Courtney has answered that. And somebody asked about keeping students as they're entering in the hallway safely and socially distanced. And I answered it in the chat, but I will go ahead and answer it for everyone else. Because they are entering the building at different points, we worked really hard to come up with plans that eliminated as much crossover between groups as possible. So we will also provide reminders, and teachers will provide reminders to keep their distance. And this is a great topic of conversation for parents to have at home with their children about when you go to school, make sure that you are staying, 3 to 6 feet apart away from everyone. Since they are going to be wearing their masks upon entry, we're not too worried about that, and it will be a very limited amount of time. Teachers will make sure that they come straight into the classroom, and then they will send them out 1 or 2 at a time to unpack, so that they won't all be unpacking at the same time like we have in the past. So we think we've got that pretty well under wraps, but we are definitely open to feedback about that. Some people are asking about Genesis. The vast majority of Genesis students do not begin until just before 9 o'clock. And we've worked with them on this plan, so they are also aware of what we are doing.
If you do have a Genesis child in the morning, after you drop off your youngest child, then this easily allows you to get into the back of the Genesis parking lot, to drop off your child, to bring your to whatever the protocol is for Genesis. You can easily get there by going this back way. And then you would just join this line and head straight out.
I think everything else is about different topics. So we'll go talk about dismissals, and then we'll come back to some of our questions.
One thing that I forgot to mention about arrivals, 5th through 8th grade, after they get out of their cars, instead of entering the school lobby where the star is, we actually probably need to put another star right here at the parish hall doors. They will be coming through the parish hall lobby and up the staircase to their classrooms. So 5th through 8th will enter through here. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th will enter where the star is, the regular school lobby. We'll have plenty of people out there directing the kiddos where to go on the first day. But you can remind your children as they get out of the car which doors they go through. And again, 5th through 8th, parish hall, 2nd through 4th, main school lobby.
Okay, Mr. Courtney, arrivals still starting at 7:40, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then very specific instructions for entering before and after care can be found in our handbook, or you can email basp@ctrschool.com, and I have someone who's asking about that. So that would be your best bet for that question as well, and we'll include it in our frequently asked questions.
We're probably going to
We've got teachers chiming in. So thank you, teachers, for your help answering these questions. We appreciate it because it's hard to get to them all.
And we also will be probably starting 5 minutes early, at least to get things started the first few days of school.
I just want to mention real quick, because I got a little parent email. When you're dropping off and you're getting a temperature check, if you have a younger sibling in the car that does not attend our school, let's say they go to Genesis or they go to a different school, whatever it is, if they are feverish, your child can still go to school. And if you are bringing, let's say, friends to school, let's say I bring my daughter Caroline and my friend and her friend, if I'm dropping off and Caroline does have a fever, if Jennifer does not have a fever and I brought her to school, Caroline has to go home, but Jennifer can go to school. So just because you're in the car with someone who has the fever, that does not mean that you also have to go home. We're not considering that close contact because that's not a COVID issue at the moment. It's just they happen to have a fever. I just wanted to clarify that because I got 2 emails.
Okay, regarding dismissals, cohort A will be dismissed before cohort B. There's a 10-minute staggered dismissal time. Again, this was to ensure that we can get the kids out of the building as socially distanced as possible, and mitigating that risk again, and avoiding students crossing over each other's grade levels. So you'll see the dismissal times there, whether it's for a regular day of school, an early dismissal those first Tuesdays of the month, or a half day of school. So for instance, on Tuesday of next week, cohort A, pre-K, first, pre-K, kinder, and first will pick up at 11:50, and 2nd through 8th will pick up at 12. Again, dismissal lines are the same as the arrival lines. Cohort A, back doors of the parish hall. Cohort B, the circle drive. Again, students will be wearing masks on the way up. We ask that you please pick up your younger children first and then proceed to the older line. And this is where it gets a little bit complicated, but we're going to have traffic cops, aka Mr. Courtney, out there ensuring that that the flow of traffic is doing what we want it to do. So bear with me as I go over this next slide. So this is dismissal for pre-K, kinder, and first grade. You can see our key down here. We really want you to enter to pick up the kiddos in the center drive. That's an entrance only drive right there. So you're going to come in, you're going to make a left, you're going to come down, you're going to go behind the parish offices and do the same thing that you did for pickup. And then if you don't have anybody in cohort B, you're going to just drive on down and exit here at the far south exit of the school. I wish I could figure out a way to stop that from popping up. Now, if you are picking up an older sibling, this is where you've got, if you got a student, you're picking up cohort A student, and then you have to pick up, you know, your 2 cohort B students. You are going to come around here, and then you become a dark blue line, and you are going to drive all the way down here. We didn't want everybody to have to go back out on Huffmeister, so please pay attention to traffic. There is a stop marker here, so please stop and wait till it's clear to go through. There will be cones barricading this area right here. There'll be cones barricading this so you know not to go this way. You're going to jog left, jog right, and then you are going to enter the car line for cohort B pickup here. There are going to be cars coming in here and driving this way, so we ask that you stay to the left so that these cars can stay to the right. This is where Mr. Courtney is going to be risking his life and ensuring that you folks are doing it right. And surely I jest, but I will be out there just so that people can get used to it. And it will run smoothly once we get some practice in. So if you are turning in off of Huffmeister, if you're taking a left at the light, please be cognizant, stay as far right as possible as you enter, because there will be cars coming this way and turning left. So they'll be coming in from 2 different directions.
Okay, Mr. Courtney, let me interject with a question that fits in nicely here. Somebody asked if we will still be doing the 3 lanes for car line dismissal in the upper grades. And yes, the answer to that question is we will still do 3 lanes. We will still have somebody directing traffic and somebody entering numbers. So that has not changed if you have a 2nd through 8th grade student. If you are a new family and you have a 2nd through 8th grade student and you think that I am speaking a totally different language right now, you will see how it runs on the first day of school. It's very smooth. Everybody kind of knows which way to go. There'll be somebody out there to direct us, and then you'll catch on pretty quick. So try not to worry.
Yeah, and it does, usually takes a few days to get clicking, even when we do our typical car line procedure. So this will take us a while. So we ask for your grace and your patience and your prayers that everything goes smoothly. So dismissal for 2nd through 8th grade, if you only have cohort B students, then yours looks just like it did last year. Really no change. Just to remember that if you're coming off of, whether you're turning in, making a right into school, or you're turning at the light and making a left hand at the light, please stay as far to the right as possible. If you're coming in this way, please stop here while these folks make a left-hand turn. If you're coming in down this way, please be cautious and yield to those making a left-hand turn. they don't get much time to make that left-hand turn. So we did get it extended last year, thanks to Deacon Carey and his hard work with the county. So that light's a little bit longer. That left-hand turn light, that guarded left-hand turn is a little bit longer than it used to be. How we doing, Miss Siri?
I'm looking now. I think most of the questions that have been answered, staff members have jumped in to help. So I think we are okay for right now.
Okay.
Many thank yous. So thank you to all of you who are posting positive comments. We appreciate it. It's certainly been a lot of work, but it's all going to be worth it.
I think back to my days in university. I spent a lot of time learning about pedagogy and not a lot of time learning about traffic control. And but I've gotten plenty of on-the-job training, as well as the rest of the admin team and the teachers. And we have a parking lot that I was joking with Miss Yannick today, that I think if we planted corn in all of the medians, we could have our very own corn maze and charge tickets to get in. So it is it's a bit of a maze when you look at it, but for those families who are new, you can look to the returning families to say that we get it done, and we get it done pretty efficiently. So, and one of the things I meant to mention this, one of the things that might be going through your mind is, well, just gosh, things might get backed up, and it seems like, with taking temperatures or with only, unloading, having one person unload 2 cars and all of these different things. What we have to remember is that we're down in numbers overall this school year, just like many schools are. Our enrollment is now right up to right around 340, which we're proud of. We were at 406 last year. But in addition to those 340, 25% of them are learning from home. And not everybody has children in cohort A and cohort B. So with that said, we're expecting that our lines won't be much longer than they have in the past, and that you won't spend a whole lot more time picking up your children, even though many of you have to go to 2 different locations to do that. Like I started, the same way I end. What we feel and what looks like great on paper or on the digital screen doesn't always work out like we thought, so we will adjust where needed. And that is our car line presentation.
I'd like to follow up before we ask for any additional questions. We will get this updated. I had a parent reach out and say that, we updated in the handbook, but the maps are also on the reopening page, and I missed that one. I got them in the handbook, but I did miss them on the reopening page. So I will make sure that those are updated as well. But definitely refer to your handbook. The handbook that's posted online if you want to look at these maps in a little bit more detail. And this live stream is being recorded, so you will be able to come back and access it. If everything that Mr. Courtney and I have said in Nurse Hall, it's just so exciting. You want to hear it over and over and over again. And I think I told another parent, pop some popcorn and make it a movie night. But you will be able to go back and review again if you need to, and rewatch and hear what Mr. Courtney has explained.
Yeah. And then just one real quick miscellaneous item. Please check out the Chronicle every week. We work hard on it, and it is our primary means of communication for school-wide business. Classroom, I know that parents are always very quick, me included, to check out your individual child's classroom newsletter each week, but please, 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 so many things that come up are answered in our Crusader Chronicle every week, and there's always lots of important information. One of the important pieces of information that is in there this week is about picking up your tags, your new car line tags, and we give directions on how to do that after you drop off your kiddos on Tuesday. So please check that out in the Chronicle.
Perfect. That was going to be the first thing I was going to say, that's the question coming up. Your car tag numbers will be available. If you are enrolled in the virtual Crusader classroom, they were with your items today, but everybody else is going to pick them up on Tuesday morning, and the information is in the Chronicle. somebody's asking about needing numbers for the parents and sitter. Yes, you always get 2 to start. If you need more, you are always welcome to email the front desk, reception@ctrschool.com, or even just email your teacher, your homeroom teacher, and let them know, and they'll let the front desk know, and we will print off some more if you need more. I always made sure I had 3, 1 for mom, 1 for dad, and then 1 for a grandma, or kind of a floating one based on who was picking up. There's a couple of questions about the before and after care program and how we're running that. And they're not too specific of questions. So I think your questions would be best answered by Ms. Connell, the BASP the woman who is in charge of BASP, and you can reach out to her at basp@ctrschool.com. Or if you have something more specific, I'm happy to relay it to Mr. Courtney.
I can speak in general to how we're running before and after school program, both in terms of logistics of getting them picked up and dropped off, and as well as what we're doing in terms of the cohort system that we're using, meaning, trying to keep classes together as much as possible. We have far fewer students enrolled in BASP this year, so that allows us to be able to physically distance them more so. We are not going to be able to keep them totally in their classroom cohorts, but we do have classrooms that are large enough where we can keep them as much with their cohorts as possible. In the morning, all of the students are required to wear masks in the morning and in the afternoon because of that mixing of cohorts. So we want them masked for that. They will get them outside a lot for BASP, and so there'll be plenty of time for them to be free of their masks. So as in terms of dropping them off and picking them up, those are questions that can be answered by Ms. Connell. But again, we will add those to our FAQs. Were there any, you said there wasn't any specific questions, just kind of generally how it runs?
Yes, there was a question about, sorry.
They're going to be sitting in the morning spaced out at tables, again, based on their cohorts. So it's going to be a little bit easier to maintain cohorts in the morning, but they will be sitting at tables physically distanced from each other, 6 feet apart, and wearing masks.
Mr. Courtney, we've got a request to repeat the total number of students. Oh, Ms. Wogan, thank you. Ms. Wogan is hopping on. So we appreciate all the teachers and parents who are helping each other out in this chat box. I'm not seeing a whole lot of new questions that haven't been answered. I don't know if you want to give it a couple minutes, but I do want to let everyone know we've tried to answer everything either out loud, we read them out loud, or I noticed that teachers were chiming in and responding. So if we've missed any of your questions, please feel free to email us and reach out, ask your teachers. They are a wealth of information. Thank you guys so much for helping out tonight. And refer to our handbook whenever possible. And we will also capture, so we will go back and read. I know there's I'm sure we missed one because it's 2020 and I'm sure we missed a question. So we will go back and read these questions and put together a frequently asked question sheet along with some of our questions from our orientation last night as well. But I think we're doing pretty well, Mr. Courtney.
Great. I wanted to just end by saying we worked really hard on our plan. It's on our website. So you can see the website on the screen, right, Ms. Siri? Great. I heard yes from the wall.
Dan, while you're on that page, can I just show them while you're on that? If you hover over parents, the parents tab, down to notes from nurse, and scroll, yours truly, keep scrolling right there. Those are all like the health forms. I know a lot of you have emailed me asking questions already, which is awesome. All the forms are right there, but please don't hesitate. Just email me if you know which one. I know that's a lot. Just email me if you need to know which one you need, but they're right there on the website, really easy to get to. That's all I have.
And I wanted to direct your attention about how you can find out all of this information and more through our website. And if you go to About, our fall 2020 reopening plan is the very first link there. So you click on there, and here you see our fall reopening plan, a letter from way back in August, my July 23rd letter. But over here is where you're going to find a lot of what you want. Our learning election form is probably a dead link now because we have elected already. So you can go to the on-campus learning or the remote learning to get all of this information. And like I said, even more specific. So if you click on campus learning, you've got bars over here for health and safety, positive case of COVID-19, our mask policy, arrival and dismissal, a little bit about how we're going to be running mass this year, lunch, recess, enrichment, athletics, and extracurriculars. And there you go, before and after care, which doesn't have much information on it. So again, we will make sure that we get your questions answered from Ms. Connell.
And Mr. Courtney, we're going to end this on a really positive note. My favorite comment from the last 2 days, I think everybody's favorite comment has been from a parent who has shared that the CTR car line is like a school version of the Chick-fil-A car line. And it just doesn't get any better than that. So thank you for that. We thank you guys so much for your support. And thank you to all the teachers and staff that help behind the scenes. It really does take a village.
We have to say it's our pleasure.
Oh, that's right. It's our pleasure. Good job, Nurse Hall.
Well, thank you everybody so much. God bless. I always like to, in a meeting like this, that I think we did pretty good that we kept it. Anytime you have car line involved, if you can keep a meeting to an hour and a half, you've done a great job. So please join me in prayer as we end. In the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Dear loving and gracious God, we give you thanks for our school community. We give you thanks for our faculty and staff, our families, our parish, our benefactors, everybody who makes our school the special place, the faith-filled place that it is. Lord, we ask that you watch over and provide the guidance and the wisdom that our politicians and scientists need to help not only deal with this pandemic, but to find a way to get us out of this and allow us to get back to a way of life that we all long for. During that time, Lord, we ask that you give each one of us the strength and the courage to maintain our focus, to maintain our spirits, to maintain a healthy attitude, and most of all, so that we can be a light for our children during this time where so many of us feel a deep sadness in our hearts about some of the things that our children are missing out on. So provide us the strength to keep their spirits up, Lord, and provide our teachers and our staff with all of the patience and the grace and the fortitude that they need to do all of the work they're doing. So much more than in a typical school year. So, Lord, we ask all of this in your name, and of course, in your mother's name, and we pray in her name together as we say, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. And may we all remain Crusader strong. God bless you. Have a great evening, and we'll see you on Tuesday. Have I done everything I need to do?
I was like, are we just all here sitting looking at each other?